more love, more joy, everything.
It's inspired young people.
Inspiration comes from within you. When you clear out the garbage that's in your mind, you then create space for something better, more beautiful to come in.
Let's have life and have it more abundantly.
I say yes.
It's like taking a workshop. I get to be in my pajamas.
We have a very active imagination, which is why it's important to learn how to harness it and then point it in the direction you want to go.
I listen to your show every day.
It's time now for Living Your Inspired Life with Susan Burrell. Susan is no-nonsense, inspirational, motivational, and fun.
This is positive talk radio.
Practical wisdom for everyday life.
It's a gift you give yourself.
Now, here's Susan.
And welcome to Living Your Inspired Life. You're listening to News Talk 1590 KVTA. And just at the start of every show, I remind listeners, please go to the website, livingyourinspiredlife.org. You can find out all the amazing conversations we've been having over the years. Everything's archived on the website, and then you can share it with your friends. You know, if there's something that catches your interest, pass it on. Please pass it on. And we're on Facebook, so you can do that too through Facebook. And that's livingyourinspiredlife.org. So today, I have the opportunity to talk with a really lovely woman who has done some amazing and very interesting and to the Western world, maybe different work in the world. And she's here to talk with me about several things that she's done. And so I'm just going to welcome Rashmi Khilnani.
Hi, Susan. Thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you so much.
Hello from London.
Thank you so much for calling in from London late at night. So there's many things that you have done, but the first thing that I wanted to talk about is you are a co-producer of a documentary that's been out a couple of years, and it's called I, God. Now, what called you to join and produce this? And then let's talk about what the movie's about, besides God.
Right. Well, I've sort of been working for the Ascended Masters and the Archangelics for quite a few years as a teacher of Reiki Masters and a healer. And so I was called suddenly by Mahavatar Babaji, who's mentioned in Autobiography of a Yogi. Are you familiar with him?
Yes, I am.
Right. And so he sort of speaks to me transcendentally, and it is synonymous with my higher self. And I was called to, after I survived, second grade invasive cancer, and I had helped in the healing of many people with cancer. And it was just like I was supposed to go through this journey of the allopathic route and to take the holistic route into hospitals, such as the Royal Marsden. And after that, immediately after 1 year of intensive treatment and whatnot, which was worse than the cancer because the cancer wasn't so bad at all, it was to show transmutation. I was called to go to the States and write these 3 books: The Divine Mother Speaks, The Healing of the Human Heart, Buddha Speaks, and then later the book about Babaji, Mahavatar Babaji, Shiva Speaks. And at the same time, on one of the trips to the States, which kept happening over 8 years, I sold the roof over my head and everything to do this job and to help in the awakening of some of the spiritual leaders of America. I was asked to make a film. I felt this calling to make a film on unity consciousness, and I met Woody Allen in London next to the river, and I thought it was going to be with him, but then I went to the States on one of my trips, and my publisher, Robert Friedman, said, why don't you make this film with us? And I really would have preferred to make a film on the goddess energy, but I mean, it's all one anyways. And so, we made this film with all the spiritual leaders of America in it, and it all happened effortlessly. And I didn't know a lot of these people before that.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. So some of the people that are in the movie are Deepak Chopra, Neil Donald Walsh, who actually co-wrote this film, right?
And he's my co-producer together with Robert Friedman, who's one of the #1 channel publishers on the planet. He's the original publisher of Neil Donald Walsh and Richard Bach and many others, myself, Barbara Hand-Clow, and so on. Mm-hmm. And so he's also the narrator in the film. And then, we got together because of Neil. We've got Greg Braden, Amit Goswami, we have heads of different religious denominations. We have people off the street in America being asked these 5 questions about, do you believe in good and evil, and is there life after death, are you judged, and various just basic questions being asked of the specialists and pagans, and I'm in the film as well, giving the goddess perspective and the universal life force Reiki perspective, and so that's how this film happened, and it's really crucial right now because it can really help with the unity consciousness on this planet, and things like ISIS, the problems are getting pretty serious now of intolerance and bringing politics into religion into politics and creating, unnecessary war across the globe.
Well, so what was interesting to me as I was watching the film is not only the answers to some of those questions that were posed, but then the various heads of different religions. So there was a Hindu, a Buddhist, a couple of people that were Muslim, a couple of people that were Christian, a Catholic, and an Orthodox,
Jewish,
and a couple of rabbis. And it was interesting to hear their perspective from their perspective. Like there was a Baptist minister, and it was his perspective that really he wanted his perspective. This is my opinion, everybody. Not I'm not a film critic, but from his perspective, it was everybody should be following the Baptist creed. There was hints of that throughout from these religious leaders. That's what I felt.
Right. But it's the sort of film that I was surprised when I saw it, having been one of the makers of the film, that it goes quite deep, and each time you get something different because there's so many speakers, even though we're all got very short time slots and the editing is very tight. And the team is, award-winning team because Jonathan Friedman, our director, won, $1 million in the Super Bowl for making a Doritos ad film with $20. So, and he and his brother, they won all sorts of awards. And Neil, of course, has made some other films as well. And people like Deepika and all, have been in the various films like Further Down the Rabbit Hole and so on. So there's a lot to the film, even for people like myself and yourself that are, been on the path a long time. But particularly for the people just waking up now, and for the people that need to, broaden their perspective a little bit so that there is more compassion and tolerance and understanding of other people's perspectives, which ultimately, hopefully, the film shows that there are different voices, but they all seem to be talking about the same basic, same universal principles, of love, compassion, and, that we're all one, really, human race.
Right. Love and compassion, and that there is some sort of higher, and I would call it an inner connection to something that is kind of unnameable. And that definitely came up during the film. And, and it was interesting that some of the people in the film, some of the pedestrians, if you will, were asked, do you even believe in God? And the varied opinions and thoughts about it, and what about life after death, those kinds of questions. And it is thought-provoking, especially, I would imagine, for people that are just, like you said, Rashmi, just waking up to, wow, there's got to be another way to be in the world.
Yeah, and the name God, Susan, brings up so much, it brings, religion has been pretty unpopular in the West in recent time. Orthodox religion as such. So it brings up a lot of stuff, and this film helps one to go much deeper and really look at the question of what is the purpose of life? What are we doing here? And the larger picture, what happens really? Are we judged, etc. after we pass over? So it really takes you deep within it. It does become a bit of a deep meditation, really, even if you're not interested in sort of being out there as a world peace ambassador or something, you know.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because it also felt to me like it's a precursor, like it's a prequel to the next movie possibly that will take it deeper into unity consciousness and the universal life force and how we really are one. I mean, there was it seemed to me that there were lots of opinions on all sides of the fence, whether you, depending on what religious head you were, but also on the spiritual enlightenment people had kind of different but similar opinions, and it would be fascinating to see what the rest of that would be. Especially for people that are just waking up, that haven't done the research, to have it like, you know, one-stop shopping.
Absolutely.
I can watch the film and get it.
I was the only person in the film when asked the question, you know, do you believe in God? I said, that it's not a matter of belief. It's a matter of an experiential understanding. And, many of us have had that experiential understanding in a moment of meditation or in a moment in nature or in a moment of deep love and communion with another or a group, you know. So, or listening to amazing music sometimes. It happens in different ways for different people. But you see, that goes beyond the mind, because the divine is beyond the mind. It is, as you have so beautifully brought up, Susan, deep mystery. And it's really beyond definition and, even expression, really, in a sense. And so I would love to make a film on the goddess energy and more on the universal life force energy and the mystery of life. But I think that this was quite an important film for people, as you say, to begin with, really. And then decide where they want, if they want to deepen a particular aspect that was brought up.
Mm-hmm. And I would encourage people, if you do see I, God, and it is a documentary, that you go with an open mind and ask yourself, or watch it with an open mind and ask yourself, what is in this film for me to learn? What is it that I want to learn? Because I found myself falling into a default mechanism, Rashmi, that I used to do years ago, when people would say the G word, God.
Yeah, exactly. It does bring up a lot of emotion and kind of a shutdown state.
Yes,
almost.
and then to have religious heads, talking about God with such conviction and authority for their perspective. Also, so to really ask yourself as you're watching it, what is it that is in this film that I can learn that I would not have known, and not in a head place, but in a heart place, because that's where the divine or the life source energy really resides, is in our heart center.
Beautiful. Exactly. So sort of try and just relax the mind a bit and go into a deeper state if we can, and breathe through the triggers that come up, with the evangelist or whatever. The mind is sort of going, oh my God, here we go.
Mm-hmm.
Because, it is what it is. We can differ in our opinions and our perspectives and our beliefs and our experiences, but at the same time we can respect that is the view, or that is the experience, or that is the choice of another. And that's where the peace comes in, That's where we can create bridges and stop the wars across the globe and come together as a humanity. We do have a lot in common, and we are one, really.
Exactly. I totally agree with you.
I hope that comes through in the film towards the end a little bit.
Oh, I think it does, definitely. It's but again, if you listen, right, if you listen with an open heart, then you're going to hear much more than the intellectual mind will allow us to hear. And
and in that sense, it becomes a meditation.
Yeah, exactly.
Of the film, and you can watch it many times over, because each time you'll get something else. There's a lot in it. Really.
And the images are awesome too.
Yeah, the images. I mean, Jonathan's done an incredible job. So this film is available to download on iTunes, and it's also available on Amazon and Beyond Words. Beyond Words are the distributors of The Secret. And so it's available like that, and on my website, RashmiKhilnani.com, Neil Donald Walsh's website, and we also have a website for the film, igodthefilm.com. So, it's a lot of the famous people in the film just, did it for free. They didn't charge, and it's a deep form of service. As I said, I sold the roof over my head to be the angel seed investor. And it's interesting because a lot of the people in the film probably have a lot more money than I do. And I was sort of a bit of an outsider, and I was put in the list of authors to speak in the film even before my book was published, so that was a great honor with these New York best-selling authors. My book, The Divine Mother Speaks, The Healing of the Human Heart. And even before I decided to invest in the film, I was told I would definitely be one of the speakers. And I think that this was all meant to be, that the Ascended Masters wanted it to come, to happen through the energy of the goddess, because the film does have quite a male perspective in a sense, the male understanding of the God energy in a sense, I God,
Oh, exactly. Which I found was an interesting title, I God.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a gender thing. It's the male-female energies, God, goddess dwell within us as us, which is the meaning of Om Namah Shivaya. I love myself. I honor myself. God, goddess dwell within me as me. But then we have a male component, which is, as I said, not a gender thing. It's pushing, making happen, competing, and that sort of energy. Whereas the goddess energy is allowing, being. Effort, not efforting, holding the space and embracing and accepting.
Accepting, yeah. And it was interesting watching the film, and then I want us to kind of riff and move on, Rashmi, but there was definitely, just because you said it, there was a male perspective, predominance of masculine speakers, but it also, in that, for me, it kind of showed me that definitely, and Greg Braden and I have talked about this, but that the way it was up until just a couple of years ago is really done. It's really archaic. And the whole idea of, do you believe of a God in the sky kind of thing, to me, that's like, wow, that's so long ago now. And then I was kind of taken aback. Wow, there might be people that still really think that. Wow.
Yeah. So that's where, we can create these bridges, because there are loads of such people, including the so-called New Age people. And even the New Age has become a little bit of an ism. And we have to watch out for these things. And one great way is through watching a film like this, because you really see, how this evangelism or whatever it is can really cause problems.
Mm-hmm.
And we need to be more open, we need to be more tolerant, we need to be more patient, because people are all at different levels, even when we make the New Age into an ism of, you can only be a vegan and I can only do this.
Right.
And, oh my God, why did you have a drink, or why did you have a cigarette, or whatever it is, it's about balance. And hopefully this film gets that across to people. So, it's really easy to get it. It doesn't cost a lot. You can just pop it onto your Blu-ray player or DVD or stream it. And, it's pretty sort of transformational, really. As I say, even I was surprised because, like you, I sort of felt, do we need to cover all these things? And I initially said in the first meeting, I said, I'm not investing unless if we're going to go into all those perspectives. And half the team, overruled me because they felt it was important to bring all the voices in,
Mm-hmm.
And looking back at it, I think that they were right. So.
Yeah. Well, I definitely am I know a couple of 20-somethings that are beginning to investigate their inner world and what they think about the outer world. And I'm definitely going to share this with them because it'll be provocative for them.
Yeah, because you see, a lot of them are, it would be like, wow, there's this whole other world, because they haven't been subjected to it. It's not part of their reality.
Right.
And again, you know, a lot of these youngsters are going to be the way showers and the bridge. And so if they do get these perspectives, it'll help them to create a better bridge of peace and understanding of where the other side is coming from. Because this programming is so deep in people. You know, even amongst the New Agers, there's, you know, somebody's got that Jewish programming going, and then they're feeling guilty that they're into Babaji, or they're into Reiki, or they're into, you know, a broader perspective of divine mystery. And so, yeah, there's a lot you can sort of get from going back and to the middle and looking ahead and making a decision, you know, based, as you said, from the heart. That is, I hope, where it will go. As I said, if I had been fully in charge of making the film myself, I was the angel seed investor in the film. I'm one of the speakers in the film. I helped to make it happen big time. However, it wasn't really, you know, my baby in a sense. It was Neil's baby. And so, yeah. Co-creation.
Right, exactly. And I'm hearing that there's a film coming through you. I'm hearing that, Rashmi. Watch out.
Yeah, I mean, for me it would be about, you know, the mystery school, you know, deep mystery, and our potential as goddesses in the making.
Well, so
we are that.
Let's talk about a little bit about that but let's back up just a bit for my listeners who may not even understand what an avatar is and why it's important to know about them. Could you speak to that for a little bit?
So an avatar is not just like the Hollywood film, although that was amazing, and it's a direct emanation of source into a body that incarnates on Earth, not born of a woman usually, and so Mahavatar Babaji comes and goes in different bodies, and is sometimes in several bodies at the same time, as my soul friend Leonard Orr will vouch for, and I can vouch for, and people across the globe have had these incredible experiences of Babaji appearing to them in their homes in Russia, all over the world. And so it's an incredible energy, and people fight over, you know, this body of Babaji and the Kriya Yoga body, and he looks quite different in different bodies. And currently there's an official body of Babaji in Delhi, in India, not in Delhi, sorry, in Almora. And so this energy is it's beyond comprehension, really, because, you know, it's the whole of the universal energy in this body. And so, yeah, it's for the purposes of bringing enlightenment and at turbulent times of evolution and raising of consciousness.
And so, so Babaji's energy, if you will, it's so weird talking about that energy like it is a human being, but that energy has been incarnating on planet Earth, at least for eons. Yes,
eons. And he's called the Christ Yogi. He taught Jesus, Moses, Elijah. You know, how do we know? Well, you know, there's belief, as I keep saying, and then there's knowingness, and that's what we're moving into, the fifth dimensional and beyond dimensionals, which are all overlapping within us, as us, because we are multidimensional. Is that understanding? See, that it's not. It doesn't have to be a belief. It's a knowingness. Just as you know that the sun is going to rise the next day. Mm-hmm. Now, again, this is not a religion, because, you know, the book Shiva Speaks, Conversations with Mahavatar Babaji, I'm channeling him in the now moment with questions to do with people's lives in the now moment, how to create a bridge between everyday life and our spiritual journey, and how to see the unity in all the different parts of our being, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. And so he talks a lot about truth, simplicity, and love. That's what he teaches. And he was in this body in the 80s, and that's what he came to teach. And Leonard Orr created a rebirthing from Kriya Yoga, which Babaji gave to the planet. And it's modern Kriya Yoga is rebirthing. I'm a rebirther as well. And then Babaji asked me after I recovered from the cancer to go and help in the healing journey of Leonard Orr. So that was a tall order. But it all happened, and then I went with Leonard across the globe, And then Leonard wrote the foreword of the book, The Divine Mother Speaks, The Healing of the Human Heart, and started introducing me as a Divine Mother channel. So it was all sort of happening. It's nothing I decided, Like when Robert Friedman took me to stay with Richard Bach, he was acting a bit strange, and afterwards I said, how did you introduce me to Richard? Because I wear so many hats. And he said, I'm bringing this mystic, Indian mystic along. I said, that's why he was
That's why he was acting weird.
Around me, because I wear so many hats. And so people give you these different titles, But at the end of the day, I see myself as serving the Christ Yogi, Mahavatar Babaji, and the Ascended Masters, because Babaji is here to see all 7 billion ascend into unity consciousness, which in the New Age is called Christ consciousness, into the unified field of consciousness. And so that's why he's always with us, always with us.
And there's some other Ascended Masters that are always with us still.
Well, we got a whole load, Saint Germain, and, some of them you can say, are they archangelics or are they Ascended Masters? But I work with, for example, Saint Germain, Kuan Yin, Jesus, Metatron, and my first book, The Divine Mother Speaks, The Healing of the Human Heart, I channel the goddess Hathor of ancient Egypt. She's the sky goddess, the goddess of love, of dance, of celebration, of beauty, very Venusian energy, expansive energy. And the Hathor beings, they brought sound energy to the planet through the Tibetan Mongolian Huchan chanting and so many ways of sacred sound for healing.
Oh, I did not realize that. That's fascinating to me.
Kenyon has written a wonderful book called The Hathor Material. So when I went to Orcas Island to stay at Richard Bach's, I asked to meet Tom, and they said, no, he's very reclusive. And he actually came and had dinner with me, and he said, I see these 13-foot tall Hathor beings all around you, Rashmi, because I grew up in Cairo by the Great Pyramid of Giza as a child, and my mother said I used to talk to this cow in the sky endlessly from the balcony in Zamalek. And of course I was talking to the goddess Hathor. It's just amazing, really. My life is surreal.
So
off the charts.
Yeah, I think it is off the charts.
Seriously crazy.
How do you stay grounded in your physical plane with all those beings, tapping on your shoulder saying, "I have something to tell you"? How do you stay here?
What happens, Susan, after a while is that you realize that there is just the oneness. So now I feel lonely sometimes because, I'm like, Babaji, come out and flirt with me. He's so good looking, Satyam Shivam Sundaram, which means beauty, truth, and so on. And, it becomes oneness. So really there is no separation. Every archangelic, the devil, whatever you want, it's all us. The universe is within us. We are the universe, and it's very important to realize that there's no separation. And the grounding piece is a key for particularly people on the spiritual path. I find that many of them are just, 6 feet off the ground, and that with that energy you can't manifest wealth, you can't manifest anything because you need to be grounded. And in the book, The Divine Mother Speaks, The Healing of the Human Heart, there's a whole chapter on, the archetypal energies. So when you go earth, 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 you invoke earth and you connect to the center of Mother Earth. And the roots are just so important as the branches go up into higher consciousness. So it's all, it's basically Reiki Energy Mastery made simple. It's a powerful book for healers, beginners and even the ones that are Reiki masters and beyond, and people that have studied, because these books carry the energy behind the words. I don't write them. I literally speak them out over 21 days. It's a transmission.
Oh, my goodness. That's got to be exhausting work, actually.
No, I love it. It's effortless. That bit is wonderful. It's totally, you're on this amazing energy for 21 days. But then getting a book out there, even though I'm like Walt Disney, I just walked in and I said to Robert, you've got to you got to publish the book. And he said, how is this Indian woman here in Charlottesville? What do you do? I said, look, Babaji sent me to you, and you're not retiring. And he was like, I don't even know you. Why do I have to listen to you? And I said, now, my dear boy. And he was like, you're much younger than me. I said, now, be quiet and listen. And I'm going to channel for you. Your mother wants to say something. She was on the other side. And then I just, said to him stuff. And it so happened now he's created Rainbow Ridge Books since Hampton Roads Publishing got taken over. And he's published so many other amazing channel books in this new, because he wanted to retire, and I was like, no way. And then he was amazed that I was the one who helped him create the film. Because for 2-3 years they couldn't get anybody to sort of invest because it's a tough field, filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
So. It's never the I, we use that for it's really once you decide to serve the divine, and the divine becomes everyone and everything everywhere. And I know that sounds exhausting, but it isn't really. Then everything just starts happening, and the journey is always unknown, but you just go moment to moment. And I think we're really all here to be creative, and that's why people get ill and get depressed. Even I do sometimes if I'm not being creative.
And what does creative look like for you? I mean, when you say creative, I think some people...
working for the higher good of everybody, not just this narrow constraint of me, because I don't have children. I live in a hotel the last 10 years. My life gets more and more uncertain. But somehow the courage of the heart just keeps you in the moment, and people go, wow, where do you get this freedom? You've got one thing that we've never seen with anybody, which is this immense freedom, which is another type of responsibility. But what do you feel is people's biggest issue right now in the States?
Well, I think definitely it's fear, and we're in an election year.
Yeah.
And the fear has caused such division. Well, it has for the last, I don't know, since the inception of the United States, I don't know, or any country, but the fear has caused such a divisiveness that there's no, and there's such a shame game that keeps happening of I'm going to make the other side wrong so you won't look at my stuff, or I'm going to make them wrong so you like me, or whatever that is, which is, I really, really personally don't comprehend it. But I know there's a lot of people out there that, this idea of wanting to know that I'm right, and if I'm right, that will make me safe and my family safe. So I'm going to fight to be right. That's kind of what I think is up.
There's so much change. There's so much change coming on the planet, and Babaji talked about it in that last, official body. Well, there's a new one now. A bit confusing, but as Hare Khan Baba at that time in the 80s, and that's why this book, the latest book, Shiva Speaks, Conversations with Babaji, is all about how to deal with change, how to make it effortless and joyful, and deal with fear and so on. We all have fear. I mean, I still get fear in the body because the body will have some.
Mm-hmm.
But if we go with the fear, then that's one thing. And if we go through the fear, that's when the miracles start happening, and you just reach more and more expansive states, and then sometimes you go backwards and forwards. But I think it's really important now because in America particularly there's a huge economic meltdown happening. And it's going to happen across the globe, and it's going to intensify. And this is 2016, the year of completion, and, souls are leaving the planet, and so much is happening. And so the truth, simplicity, and love piece are just so important now. And the biggest problem people have is loving themselves.
Oh, well, yes, I'm raising my hand.
That is the key.
Rashmi, I'm raising my hand. I work with groups of women, and when you peel down the layers, underneath it is this deep, I want to say wounding. I don't think it's wounding, really, but just this deep well of I'm not valued.
Good enough. I'm not good enough. I'm not enough. I don't deserve. This is the key of all healing sessions. And then people go, but how do I love myself? And I mean, that's not easy. We've all grappled with it. all of us.
Yes.
I have in this lifetime. So, who was the teacher I heard the other day? And they said, well, let's just take baby steps. Yeah, Jim South. And he said, let's just take the baby step and not say love. Let's just say, I like myself. And I'll cut myself some shtick. And, I'll be okay with my imperfections. And, I think for people now, what's really important is simplicity, sharing, and finding that little bit of space away from gizmos to connect to nature, to connect to music, to connect to dance, to connect to some painting or whatever they want to do, which is creative, that takes them back to what they enjoyed doing when they were children. And, half the things that people in America or anywhere in the world, but particularly in the States, enjoy, they don't really need, they don't really use, or any of it.
Right, right.
So it's like this huge burden on your back. And I think if everybody opens their hearts to loving themselves and making space and breathing and being in nature and helping each other, then no matter what happens as the changes come, people will get together and they will stop being sheeple and they'll say, no, peaceful non-cooperation, it's happening already, but it will create a wave and then we can have a new system that, because it doesn't really matter whether it's Hillary or whether it's Trump, or they're all part of the same thing.
Exactly.
And fiat money and all the rest of it. So Babaji says, the courage of the heart is just so important. So does the goddess Hathor. So do you. So do I. This is a given. Everybody needs to experience that, and nobody can help you to like yourself. I mean, there's all this information and all of us out there to help people, but ultimately people have to just walk through that door in baby steps themselves, and there's so much empowerment in that, don't you feel? I mean, it doesn't need to take years anymore.
No, it certainly doesn't feel like it's taking years. Well, wait a minute now. I have to. I'm in my middle years, so yeah, it kind of felt like it took a long time. But right now, it feels like everything is moving so fast.
Speeding up.
Yeah, it is definitely.
It's wake up time.
Yeah,
it's wake up time now.
And
it really is.
So, Rashmi, one of the things that, as you were speaking about this, I know there's lots of people that. When they begin to think, oh, I love myself, this is great, they think it's going to last forever. It's like, oh, I found the piece, the golden nugget that I've been looking for, and now I have it. And what happens is, because things change, and they're changing so rapidly, that it seems to me, at least, and I want you to speak to this a bit, it seems to come in waves. That self-love and acceptance comes in waves. And I noticed this with some of the people, certainly for myself, but with other people that I work with, it's a different person each time that says, wow, I really thought I had it handled. I really thought I loved myself, but I guess I don't, because now I feel like this. But that doesn't necessarily mean that love for ourselves or that inner love is gone. What does that mean?
It's not diminished because healing happens like an onion in layers, It's never all in one shot because it would be too much. And so, depending on how deep the issue is, and as we go through this process of healing, which means making whole and complete, making okay, accepting, going through, feeling the feeling, and we start releasing the programming, which again happens in layers and waves, then what's inside, it comes from the inside out. It's just pure love anyways. It's not something we have to bring in there from some galaxy out there, or some, solar flares or photonic energy. I mean, all that is there, but it's all within us. It's just to clean up the mirror of dust of the suppressed, repressed shadow, so-called shadow stuff, and just love it and just feel it. And once you feel it properly, even for a moment or a short time, you recreate the pattern and therefore you neutralize it. But it's the negation, the suppression, the repression, the judgment, the denial, the projection onto other people, the government, whatever,
right,
that causes the issues.
Your parents, yeah.
Yeah, and then the love, that light, that love within can't shine forth because the dust is so heavy on the, glass or mirror or whatever.
I love that analogy. And I just caught you said that when you're suppressing it, you recreate it. Is that what you said just now?
No, what happens is that the shadow is suppressed and repressed stuff. And when we allow ourselves to feel our emotions, healing is feeling, then it's energy in motion, and so it moves. And so by feeling a bit of the trauma or a bit of the pain or a bit of the abandonment of 20 years ago or 20 lifetimes ago, whatever it is, you recreate the pattern. And so through recreating the pattern just briefly, you neutralize it. It's just wanting acceptance. It's just wanting love. It's just wanting to be acknowledged. That's all.
Wow, because when I feel like I'm recreating that pattern, it makes me so upset and so uncomfortable because I feel like I've failed or wow, I really don't love myself if I'm going through this again.
But that's just the mind coming in. You see, if you create a space in the heart and you bring in some beings, whoever you love, Kuan Yin, and ground yourself, put yourself in a safe space. And then you say, no matter what comes up, I don't have to be perfect. I don't even, this is the past. The past doesn't even exist, but it's energetically in my body as an emotion that needs to be freed, or as an elemental energy that just needs to be freed. It's a bit like if you've got an attic and everything's been shut in there, and then you open the door and you give it a nice airing. That's all. Then all the smells and whatever gunk is in there, it'll all just go. But if you go, ooh, it's so disgusting in this attic, I can't even get in here. And if I have an attic like this, I can't be lovable. Well, then that's the end of that. You can't heal through the mind.
Right.
I mean, you can use the mind to understand it a bit as a bridge, but you have to sort of surrender. You have to create a space for something higher within you to create that shift. And all you have to do is to be willing to just allow it to come up and accept it without judgment.
That's a hard one too, accepting it without judgment. Because our mind wants to sort everything and go.
This is the programming. Who decides that it's good and bad? Mm-hmm. That's where the film comes in.
Right, that was a question in the film.
There isn't a God. There isn't a God up there in the sky pointing fingers. Even the famous book, The Life of Billy Fingers. I love putting quotes on Facebook from that book because, this guy has passed over. He's saying there is no judgment. When you pass over, you look at, and I talk about that in the film. I say, when you pass over, you look down at that life, you reevaluate it, you decide how you want to do it differently next time. That's all. It's just a Shakespearean role. I mean, of course, there's action reaction. So if you've done Hitler-like stuff, then as you sow, so shall you reap.
Right.
As well. That's cause and effect. There's no actual judgment as such. No, you will just look at your own life and go, I'd like to do that differently next time, or maybe I want to relearn that lesson. And it's all an illusion, anyways. It's a malleable reality. It's not linear 3D reality.
So what I'm hearing you say, as you're speaking this, Rashmi, what I'm hearing is the idea that, and we talk about this on Living Your Inspired Life all the time, of that we are self-responsible, and in essence, we do create our lives by the laws of cause and effect, and what you just described, right? The choice and choice. In review, I have the choice, or in this moment, I have the choice. Do I want to be light and love, or do I want to be mean-spirited and judgmental? And sometimes that can be fun, but yes, I want to be light and love. So, and that takes being responsible. And some people take that, okay, I'm raising my hand. And I take that very seriously.
To love yourself, I mean, to be like that, you don't always have to be all nice and, agree to everything and be a doormat and have no boundaries. When the heart is grounded into the, body and into the earth energies, and it's a lot of these energetics I explain in the first book, The Divine Mother Speaks, the pranic tube connecting to the center of the earth and up into through the crown to the cosmos. And then what happens is that moment to moment, right understanding happens, Mm-hmm. You don't have to say, in this situation, will I do it like this or that? All that is linear. So it just means stepping into the unknown moment to moment from that grounded heart space. Then the mind is more relaxed because the heart is the boss, and you just, the right course comes up. Sometimes it's to say no, sometimes it's to walk away, and sometimes it's to embrace the situation and be unanimous. It's not like a black and white sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. So then can we speak a bit about, because in the movie I, God, that we started the conversation with, you spoke or you said that you would have liked to have talked more about the goddess energy. So, with 2012 happening and with the year 2000 and then 2012, and there's all these cosmic shifts that are occurring depending on who you're listening to. And definitely the age of Aquarius is behind us. Is that right? The age of Aquarius is behind us?
No, the age of Aquarius is happening.
Is fully
beginning.
Is fully happening now. So
it's beginning, yeah.
So what, because I know there's people in the world that hear goddess and they go, oh my God, here's the crazy person. Usually a woman. Here's the crazy lady that wants to tell me about this energy that I don't understand, but it's a very simple energy, yes?
So if you just explain, your understanding of that, in a nutshell.
Well, for me, I think that the feminine, the divine feminine that people are talking about that's hitting the planet now is the energy that embraces all of it. And that includes the masculine energy that has to be strong or warrior-like, and the mothering energy. And I think that the divine feminine is, to me at least, when I've reached into it or felt it moving in my life, it is that thing that you were just talking about, of that heart-centered living life and being that place of truth and love, and not from a what am I going to get out of this, but just that's who I am and that's how I choose to be. Does that make sense? Did I make sense?
Yeah. So really this, as I said earlier, the divine feminine energy within each of us is a masculine component and a feminine component. Mm-hmm. And so that is what inner Tantra is. And when we go into, Buddhist meditations of Tantra, the Vajrasattva and the Vajra Saraswati or the Shiva Shakti energy, this exists in each and every one of us. And it's not a gender thing. And as I said, the male energy is about doing, making happen, competition, fight, flight. And that has been the energy of 26,000 years on this planet. Now we're moving into the energy back again before Atlantis sank because of misuse of energy, because it got out of balance. And really, it's the time of the divine feminine. That doesn't mean a women, creating a matriarchal system on the planet, which is another extreme. But it's about the balancing of the male and the female, and of the female, which is the heart energy, taking the front seat. So when the heart that's the divine feminine energy, whereas the mind is more the masculine Martian energy, from Mars. Mm-hmm. The heart is more the Venusian energy, the feminine energy, and so this energy is now a reawakening, and that's why the DNA is going from 2 to 12 helix. The photonic energy is here. The Sirians and Pleiadians and our brothers and sisters from space of higher consciousness are here to help in the wake up, because there was a mutation of our genetics, through other forces on the planet that we allowed. And this male energy usually cuts off emotion, it cuts off feeling, it cuts off empathy, intuition, and higher frequencies. It becomes very linear. And so now even quantum physics explains that, time is malleable, the universe is not solid, and so on. And that's all part of this feminine energy. It's multidimensional, it's all allowing, it's embracing, it's all inclusive, it's discerning, it's powerful, and it exists in the hearts of men and women, and it's awakening. And as this happens, a new golden age is going to happen. But as that happens, the old systems have to start crumbling. And that's what the Shiva Speaks book is all about, for the new to come through.
Mm-hmm. And
which will be more balanced.
Right. So, and then talking about the old systems crumbling, because I think we've been seeing that for the last, definitely the last decade. But
yeah, big time.
Since year 2000, definitely. You can point to so many things, but so with the crumbling, I think that's what's igniting the fear in so many people too. Because if the ground starts moving, where am I going to be standing when it's done?
Well, that's why. I mean, it's not because I wrote it, but I was asked to write these books to help the planet. Is that Shiva Speaks? Babaji explains that as the Mahakranti, which is the great inner warfare, which is the great awakening through this alchemy happens, that the courage of the heart is everything. The chanting, the name of the divine is everything. Either Om Namah Shivaya or whatever. It could be whatever name of the divine. It doesn't have to be Om Namah Shivaya. And but Om
whatever
Namah Shivaya
resonates to the person.
The mind. Yeah. But Om Namah Shivaya is called a Maha Mantra because it means what I said earlier. I love myself, I honor myself, God, Goddess dwell within me, as me. It means infinite consciousness, infinite intelligence, etc. Whereas we have, for the last 26,000 years, been in the sleep cycle, which is, limitation, control, fight, flight, and so on. And that is going to lead to total destruction if we don't awaken this heart energy. But that is happening. And as the heart energy awakens, and people like Martin Luther King and Gandhi and myself and various others that are so courageous to face fear after fear, it doesn't mean we don't get scared, And I don't know if I could do some of the things that they did, but in my way, I've also been very courageous. And so whoever's open-hearted, it doesn't have to be some great being like them. It could also just be a taxi driver, whoever. Is open-hearted, is going to have this courage energy, and we can invoke it through, invoking Hanumanji, the monkey god of India, who was a reincarnation of the Shiva energy anyways, or any other archetypal energy like Saint Michael, or, the archetypal energies are within us. This has got nothing to do with religion and so on. Or just invoke courage, and ask for the help, and ask for guidance, or ask the Pleiadians or Syrians, or I bring in now 1,008 angels for everything. I said 1,008 angels. My mom passed away. Go to India and take care of my mother. Be there when she passes over. Help so and so. And these energies are there because we are God, goddesses in the making. We are co-creators of our reality. There is no one God up there or out there. It's all within us. Babaji is within us. Kuan Yin is within us. The goddess energy is within us. Everything is within us. And 26,000 years, we've been very mesmerized with the outside, like everything happens from the outside into the within. It happens from the within to the outside. And it's very hard for me, even with the spiritual leaders of the West, to help them to understand this. It took me years myself in this lifetime, because when you come here, even though I've been enlightened in previous lives, you forget.
Right.
And so, it's just to have that trust and surrender into the universal energy, which will always support us. But if we believe it does, but if we buy into the fear, which is an illusion, then we'll get that reality.
Yes.
It's all a choice. It's all choice. So, as I say, it begins with grounding and loving yourself, liking yourself, making, what, your father's, my brother, sister, everybody said that you were not right, you weren't okay. Make it okay. It was just a thought. That was just their opinion. And you can just choose to be okay no matter how you are, because nobody's perfect. Even Saint Michael and all these guys, they're not perfect.
Although we would like to think they are, but no, they probably are not.
The gods got up to all kinds. The Indian gods, my God, they were a debauched bunch,
Yeah.
And the Greek gods, and we can go on.
Well, this sounds like another conversation we should have, Rashmi, about all of that and the archetypes. So we're at the end of our show. I am so grateful that you made time in your evening in London to have the conversation here. And for those that are listening, the movie is called I, God, and Rashmi Khilnani has written 3 books: The Divine Mother Speaks, Buddha Speaks, and Shiva Speaks, and highly, highly, highly recommend that you investigate those books. Rashmi, I was checking out the books and on Amazon, and just when I clicked on Shiva Speaks, I felt energy. Okay, that's me. Maybe it was just my computer.
They have the energy.
Yes.
They have the energy behind the words because
Yes. And I
that's
felt
what has been imbued to help refire the encodings, because nothing is ever new. It's all within you, but sometimes it just needs to be refired, and that's it.
Well, I am deeply grateful and appreciative for all the work that you've done and your courage of the heart to show up this lifetime exactly as you have been doing. And I just want to end with saying, and so it is, namaste.